Good evening, everyone. The last couple are joining us, and then we'll get started. So welcome to a lovely evening in Sheffield. Nice and cold, snowy. We've had a bit of fresh snow again. Can everyone hear me okay? Can I get some thumbs up? Excellent. See me okay? Should be good. All right, so we are going to, I've got one or two more late arrivals. Shall I let them in? I think I will. Let's be kind. Right, I think that's everyone in. Right, I think we're good to start. So tonight, welcome to the 10 best running exercises. We've only got 10, so it's not going to take too long, is it? So hopefully you're all looking forward to learning about what my chosen 10 exercises are tonight. So just to introduce myself, my name's Steve Canning. I'm a physiotherapist here at the White House Physio Clinic. That's at Sandygate, in the nice snowy part of Sheffield here. I think we've got a few people joining us from various parts of Sheffield this evening, as well as maybe some far-flung places as well. I don't know if we've got any internationals, but we'll have to see. So welcome. So the physiotherapy clinic here at the White House, you know, we do treat a lot of runners, running injuries. Unfortunately, they're a part of the parcel with running. We do physiotherapy, we've got massage, we do shockwave as part of physiotherapy, we've got a sports and exercise medicine doctor, so we've got loads of support if you ever do need us. Also, when you're not injured, Pilates, yoga, running classes, yeah, just to keep you going, keep you enjoying that running, especially in the snow and ice that we're all challenged with at the minute. Just to let you know, tonight's session is being recorded. That is just mainly to see me, and we'll just be using it in the future just for some demos. So just let you know it's being recorded. So hopefully you know a bit about who I am, the White House Clinic. I suppose a little bit more about kind of my history. I'm a physiotherapist, been here for many years at the clinic, and I've got what some could say is a keen interest in running. Some might also say it's slightly obsessive as well. I love it. So running in the sunshine, I remember those days. Running in the snow and the ice like I've done today, slipping around a bit. I'm more of a marathon runner. I suppose that's my kind of distance. I was hoping to go to the Berlin Marathon in 2020. I went to Berlin in 2020, I just didn't do the marathon. So hopefully this year it's going to change and we'll get to Berlin and do the marathon. That's my aim at the minute. I know we've got a lot of kind of keen kind of 5K, 10K runners there, some half marathon distance and marathon runners as well. I think we've seen some ultra runners, people just go out and carry on running all day. And then I think, you know, the past year, a lot of people have found they've maybe not been able to do a sport that they're used to, so they've taken up running as well. So there's a lot of kind of fresh runners out there as well, which is great to see, seeing loads of people out there running. So these 10 exercises I will get to in a minute. Just a few notes about them to start with. Don't try them if you're not sure about them. If you're confident, you can try them straight away. If you're injured, probably best to seek a bit of professional assistance. They're not too intensive, using too much equipment at the minute. There's lots of variations that you can do with them as well. So I'll show you the basics, but some you can make a little bit easier, some a little bit harder. You can adapt them a bit. So we quite often use things like these exercise bands, which use nice stretchy bands, which you can put around your legs or your ankles. And they're really versatile pieces of kit, always worth having one of those. We prescribe a lot of exercises with those. But predominantly these exercises don't have any equipment. I've designed them for this reason, so you could go and start them now if you want to. And I've given a bit of variety as well, so they're not all kind of the same thing. They're not all strength-based. I've tried to give some strength and some balance, a bit of flexibility in there. So if you did kind of choose these 10 exercises, they're probably a really good start for you. I will be demonstrating them in a minute, by all means, if you're not injured and you're willing and you've got space around, you're not going to crash into anything, have a stand up and have a go as well if you want to, or save it for another time. I suppose another question, well, a question you may have is, why should we do these exercises? Why can't we just go for a run? I suppose what we're looking at is why we do these exercises. A lot of people think it's injury prevention, which is a really good thing. When you're injured, you do these rehab exercises. But it's also for improving performance, improving posture, to make you a better runner. And that's not always going faster. If you want to go faster, then I do recommend them. But running with a better posture, running more freely, you know, they do help all of that. And I think I was out on a run tonight. I went down past Forge Dam and skidding around the snow that was coming down there. And I was thinking, I do these exercises regularly, and I felt quite stable and balanced. I was bending down just to adjust my posture for this. So I thought tonight's a really good example of when we kind of need these exercises to benefit us. So I don't know if anyone else has been out today and kind of trying to balance yourself a bit, and you know, you're relying on those strong muscles and everything to kind of work in synergy. So I was thinking that's quite relevant today. So yes, improved posture, improved performance. If you want to go quicker, then I recommend you do these exercises, and preventing injury. So loads of benefit there, loads of. Okay, so I'm just going to move. I'm ready to do some running exercises. Normally this is on a Monday night, so this is 2 nights in a row for me. So what I'm going to start with is a nice warm-up exercise. The running man, I call it. It takes your body through a large range of motion, and it starts a little bit of coordination. So let's see if I can get this right. So I'm just going to go through a large range of motion with my legs and my hands. I'm rocking through. You can't quite see my foot. I'm not able to adjust it enough, but I'm rocking forwards and backwards. Get a nice large range there. It's a really good warm-up before going for a run. Oh, I can see some people doing it already. So I'm just doing this on one side at the minute, because you're taking yourself through a nice range of motion. Okay, if you think about your hip, your knee, your ankle, all going through a large range of motion there. Obviously, then you do that on both sides. And I suppose if you're looking at doing these 10 exercises, that's a really good start. So probably that's why I gave it #1 status. Okay, the second one, we're going into a nice simple squat exercise. It's really simple. You don't need any equipment. Lots of ways of doing a squat. A lot of people think, you know, am I doing it right or am I doing it wrong? I'll do it side on to start with so you can see. So with a squat, I like to take the hands out or put them overhead, but hands out now. I'm just sitting into a squat. So you're not going too far forwards and you're keeping your back nice and straight. That makes the quads work well. Try and keep your weight even. This is a double leg squat, so the weight should be distributed 50-50 on this one. And if you do take your arms up, it just makes your spine extend a bit, and you try and keep that posture as you go, so it makes it a little bit more challenging. You'll feel your back muscles working a little bit more there, so I like that as a variation. But to start with, arms like this. You can also vary, so that was just a squat from normal kind of leg posture there. You can take your legs a little bit wider, turn them out, and drop down into what we call a sumo squat from here. And if you're not sure about going how far you go, just start a small depth. And that should be nice and easy to do. And then when you get a bit stronger, a bit more confident, you can really drop down into that squat there. Okay. So you can build up that range that you go into. Or sometimes what we do is like a narrow squat. So with knees together, feet together, dropping down into that, that makes it a little bit different there. So easy variations. I've not added any equipment yet. So with a squat, I quite often like to do it with a kettlebell as well. Here's one I found. So something like that, you can just add the kettlebell, holding it in there nicely. Or if you want to work the shoulders, you take the arms out like this. But let's just demonstrate here. A nice simple kettlebell squat, adding a little bit of weight, working the quadricep strength, and a nice starting strength exercise. Again, if you're not too sure, just a little dip there. A lot of people can do that, and it's a starting point. Okay, so that's exercise number 2. The third exercise is either called the single leg deadlift or the arabesque. I like to call it the arabesque. It's the same exercise, just 2 different names. So with this one, I'm going to start on my right leg. I need to space forwards and behind me. I'm going to balance on the right leg to start with, and then I reach, keeping the right leg slightly bent, a nice reach, and coming back to that neutral position. Okay, so reaching out, lengthening the hamstrings here. I'm really trying to get a nice body position at that point as I come back. When you're new to this exercise, you can do it so you're placing your left foot down after each repetition. So you can do it, and you don't have to go as far. So just offsetting the balance like this is good with a small reach. And then when you do find it easier, you go a bit further into it, really work on that balance, extending the legs, trying to take your body to be a horizontal position. What you're doing as that exercise is working what we call eccentric hamstring activity. So the muscle at the back of the leg, you're making it control the movement. A for strength, but B for flexibility as well. So I might talk about I don't often just get people to do hamstring stretches like the traditional way of doing it. I think this is a really good way of helping the hamstring lengthen as you control it into that motion. So great exercise there. Again, quick variation. You can do it with a kettlebell, and makes it more challenging. I'm making sure I'm not hitting anything. Reaching forwards and backwards like that. So it can be done with and without a kettlebell. Okay, exercise number 4. So we're on to a heel raise, but this is, I'm going to just adjust the screen slightly for this one. Get a bit of an angle down. You might not be able to see my head for this one, but it doesn't matter so much. So the soleus heel raise. So heel raises are a nice simple exercise, really good to do. But with this one, we work with the legs bent. The soleus is the muscle, it's deep in the calf, and I think it's a really important muscle to be working for your leg strength and your posture. So how do we do that? We bend the legs, we keep them bent at the knees like this, we go onto our toes, and we're up and down from there. So it's a subtle movement. You're rocking onto your toes, lifting your heels, going up and down there. I'm equal weight on both legs for this one. And you can do lots of repetitions of that. And to make it harder, you can do it sometimes with a bit of balance. Just make sure that knee's bent up and down. But I really like just doing it like this. And another simple one to do there. Okay, so that is the soleus heel raise. The next one, I'm just going to, I normally recommend that you do these on the floor, but I thought for visual, I'll get my treatment couch and just pull that out so you can see it a bit better. So the next exercise is the single leg bridge. The bridge, just lifting up from here, and you can work nicely tucking the pelvis in, rolling up through there, segmentally rolling through the spine, really good for spinal control. But the exercise I've chosen, you can cross your arms like this. I'm liking them like this at the minute. I'm going to straighten my right leg, and I'm going to just lift my hips and the spine, and as high as I can up towards the shoulder blades, and then rolling down. And just keeping that right leg up into a straight leg raise. Not lifting it too high. Now what this exercise is doing is really working the hip, the gluteal area, the hamstrings, you can really feel it, stabilizing through the knee and a bit through the abdominal muscles as well. So it's a really good exercise, and it's going from the bridge, which I do like to do. If you're not used to them, it's good to start there. I've chosen the single leg bridge as this exercise. Okay. Right, I think the next one is still on the bed. I'm going to just shuffle over. Okay, so the next exercise is working the abdominal muscles. I'm going to lift into a side plank. It's quite a challenging one, this, so if you're not used to it, maybe something you work up to. I'm going to take my left arm up, holding that position. I'll show you the full exercise, and that's lifting the left leg and holding before lowering. So it's a slow lift on this one. Really challenging. Gets a lot of muscle work around the shoulder, around the abdomen, around the leg. So lots of the body's having to work itself there to stabilize. So that's quite a challenging exercise. You might think, oh, I'm not doing that yet. So you can do it like this as well. And you can just start off. That's quite a simple way of working the same muscles in the abdomen, just dropping the hips up and down like that. Okay. So a nice way of altering that, but yes, I chose a challenging one for this, going up and down like that. Okay, right, removal time. I think, okay, a slightly more dynamic exercise coming up. I will adjust this upwards. Okay, so the next exercise is what we call a wide lateral hop. So we're going to be in this start position. You've got to have kind of no injuries in the lower legs for this and to feel comfortable hopping over. A bit of coordination on this as well. So you're going to start here, almost like that running man pose, and you're going to hop over to the side and back again. So it's just hopping side to side, and there you go, there's my balance. Need to work on that tonight. So hopping over, and you can do this quite dynamically. So like this. Really good strength exercise. Starts to get what we call plyometric exercise going, where you're getting the fast twitch muscle fibers going for that nice bounce. That is really good to work if you want to get a stronger and quicker running pose. And you can make that more challenging by just making it a larger hop and making sure you're stable. So it's not quickly shifting, it's actually stabilizing when you do that. Okay. Maybe I should mention that these ones are quite good to do with trainers on. Just softens it a little bit, just makes it a bit easier. Okay. The next one we call cross hopping. We'll just slightly come down again. Okay, imagine you can do this, just imagining you've got a cross on the floor. So 4 points, forwards, backwards, side to side. I'm going to stand on my right leg. I'm going to hop forwards, backwards, side, 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 side. Right, I've got 4 points there. You can go between them all. And you could mark this with some like masking tape and do it quite quickly. And you can vary where you're going. And it's slightly more dynamic than just hopping on the spot. Okay. So you get lots of muscle work, can be quite tiring quite quickly. But really good, well, again, plyometric exercise that I like to do and get some strength. So make sure you're not injured and you're feeling strong to do that. If you want to do something a little bit easier, sometimes just a little bit of support, just to get used to that hopping motion can be quite good, or using a kitchen surface. Okay, let's just go up a little bit again. Okay. Flying through these, what are we on next? The 9th exercise, so the single leg squat. So we've done the double leg squats, make it a bit more challenging. A single leg squat is really good, looking at forwards and backwards position. So if you start in this position on the right leg, use your arms for a little bit of balance. So it's really good for getting the balance going. You're going to just dip and come up, dip and come up. And you don't need to go too far for this one, just to start a good strength exercise. What you do want to watch for, and this is quite often seen, that people will do this and their knee will drift. You see my knees going an angle there. Now what that's doing is my hip's not controlling that motion. It's dropping inwards a little bit, and you might see people as they land when they're running, they're dropping a little bit. So the reason for doing this exercise is to actually encourage that nice flow through to try and work on that good running posture and that strength and control there. Okay, so that's the single leg squat. You can make it a lot more challenging by doing it into what we call a pistol squat. I'll just attempt this. So dropping all the way down and coming up, dropping all the way and coming up. Again, working on the balance and having that power to really lift up. So that's a more advanced exercise that can challenge you from that. Okay. So then we've got exercise number 10. I'm going to bring this handy bed out. Okay. So we've done some warm-up exercises, some balance in there, some plyometrics, which is that kind of fast muscle activity, some strength training. I knew I was going to run out of room when I said 10. So I wanted to finish with a little bit of a stretch, my favourite stretches. Okay, so my favourite one now, to start with, is the pigeon stretch. You get into this kind of almost press-up position, but one leg and the leg that you're wanting to stretch is going to come up and go a slight angle, so you can see there. Again, I'd normally be doing this on the floor. So you're in that position, dropping yourself down from there, and this leg, you can try and get a nice angle on it so the foot's off to the side, and you're dropping and stretching through. The structures I'm stretching are kind of, I'll show you on this side, but they're on my left, the ones at the back and the hips there. So stretching through there, staying quite low. Okay, I get quite a bit of tightness there, so I find that quite a useful one. I'll just demonstrate on the other side so you can kind of get a view of the angle. Make sure you haven't got any hip problems to start with, or it's been advised by a physio to do, to drop down and stretch into a low position there. And you will feel that. So on this right hand side now, I'm feeling that all the way through here, through some tight musculature. And I did find that 10 was a little bit limiting, so I've added a 11th exercise. So another stretch. So I'm lying on my, in fact, I'll do it this way. Lying on my back to begin with, dropping my legs out to the side. You'd be doing this on the floor. One leg is bent and the other leg is hooking over it and just stretching through. And then your arms are coming across the other way. You create a nice rotation through your back, and it's a good stretching twist. Similar stretch on this hip area. I probably added these two in because I need to do a lot of these. And you get a good stretch through there. And you can really relax into this after a good workout as well. If you're doing it on the floor, you can hold that position for 30 seconds or a minute. And obviously varying sides. I'll just give you a view of the other side. So you can have your legs like this, twisting the opposite way, and you look the other way as well. Okay, you can vary where the legs go. You can actually bring the top leg over more. So if that was on the floor, it'd be coming over more. And I just feel a slightly different pull through the back there. Okay. So I'll just come back down, running around the room like I normally do. Okay, so that should give you a nice selection of ideas. And I suppose what I've tried to do there is pick out some that most people would be able to kind of start straight away, really, get going with. And if you're not injured and you want to do some exercises and you don't have much equipment, say you're fairly new to running, you can get straight into those. And with what I've mentioned, there are some variations where they're a little bit easier and some where they're a little bit harder. So if you're not sure about it, start with the easier ones and see how they feel. If you're feeling fairly confident from there, try and advance them a little bit more from that. Okay, so I've got a message from Sally about that. How many repetitions for these exercises? So it really depends on the exercise that you're doing. So for the running man type exercise, I'd probably say at the start, you want to do that about 30 seconds on each side. With the kind of more the strength exercises, the squats, the single leg deadlifts, the side planks, I suppose you're looking at kind of 2 to 3 sets of 10 repetitions as a good starting point, as a generic term for that. I suppose it depends what you're trying to concentrate on, if you want to specifically strengthen in each area, but 2 to 3 sets of 10 for each exercise on each side gives you a kind of a good amount of exercises to be doing there. When it comes down to the stretches, you don't really need to be doing that many of them. You want to be going into that position and holding it for a bit longer. So you're looking at about a minimum of a 30-second stretch for that. But you only want to probably do 1 or 2 on each side, and they should be nice and relaxing. And if you feel comfortable in that position, you can hold it for a bit longer. Okay. I think we will be able to kind of give a bit of information about these exercises if you've been taking notes of what to do, but we'll be able to give a bit more information afterwards. So an exercise from Ben here. Sorry, a question from Ben. Oh, it's disappeared. I'll bring up my chat. Would you do these exercises on days you're not running, and how many times a week would you suggest? So it depends on kind of what you're working towards. And the ideal is, if you're going to do something like this and you're new to it, then the best time to do it is on the day where you haven't got any other exercise on. I'm running quite a lot at the minute, so I tend to either run before I do the class or afterwards. But I suppose I'm quite used to that. My body's fairly used to the running, and I don't ever do a hard run. I suppose that's it. You could probably do a nice simple run tagged onto these exercises if you wanted to. You get in your running kit, and you could do these as a kind of a steady go before you go out for like a nice steady run for you, like I would say a 20 or 30-minute run for most people. It's best not to do a high intensity workout of strength and conditioning exercises with a high intensity running kind of training at the same time. You want to give it at least 24 hours gap between those. So it's a good question for that, Ben. I think what I'll do from there, I've also got a few questions. I know when we get everyone to sign up, we ask for some questions, and I've got some great questions from people. So I might move on to that now, and then just see if we get some other questions towards the end. So yeah, thank you to everyone who's signed up and provided a question to make me ponder over the past week or so. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to get through them all, but I'll give it a bit of a go to get to a few of them today. We will be addressing some of these in later articles. We'll email out, and on our website, if you keep an eye on our website, we'll address some of the other questions from tonight as well. But going on, what Alex has asked, so what is the best pre-run routine? So let me just, I've got a late arrival, I might let those in. The best pre-run routine, I suppose, it is the dynamic exercises. So a lot of people kind of question or not sure about what to do. So what you're looking at in before going for a run, you want to warm up. You want to warm up your joints, get your joints going through large ranges of motion. You don't want to, well, my advice is not to do static stretches. Static stretches don't really have much benefit. The only scientific evidence is that they might actually make things a little bit worse. So a static stretch that you see a lot of people do, and it's not, I don't think it will make things much worse, like a quad stretch like this, or leaning onto a tree before a race, leaning like that and stretching your calf. I never do things like that. My warm-up is more like the running man, like this, or taking the hip through a nice range of motion, so lifting and opening there. Some nice dynamic movements there. I'll do a few calf raises, just up and down from there. But also trying to think about the whole body. So you might try and get your back loose, rocking side to side might loosen up the spine a bit if you feel a bit stiff. Working the arms forwards and backwards. So I suppose the general thing there is that everything's going through a kind of a large range of motion. I'll go through another couple and then I'll just go back to some other slides as well. A question from Julia: is stretching bad for runners? Which is quite a good question, because I'm not the most, I don't advise static stretching as much. So I suppose what is stretching could be a good argument or question. It may take another seminar to do the full kind of delving into that, but stretching itself, you know, like I said just then, if you're doing a pre-run stretch, a static stretch, I don't think it's that beneficial. I don't think it's actually that bad, but it may be a little bit of a kind of, you're not getting much benefit for the time you're spending doing it. I really kind of find benefit from things like yoga, where you're really working into that stretch and spending time doing it as well. So the pigeon stretch and that lumbar rotation stretch, where you can actually kind of relax at the end of a workout, I find really beneficial. So yes, I mean, that question in itself poses a lot of debate, but maybe we will have a follow-up seminar on something like that. And what is stretching? Because stretching is a multitude of things. Like I say, yoga, really good. I suppose this comes into it. Foam rollers, a lot of people ask whether the foam rollers are really beneficial. Anecdotally, so many people find them useful. So, and I use them and find them of benefit, and I prescribe exercises with foam rollers, and I don't get many people say they don't get much benefit from it. So I suppose that's you know, in terms of warming up muscles and loosening them, that's a really good thing to do. I didn't get any questions about that, but I suppose it's to throw into the mix there. One other question before I move on. After years of playing football, so this is from Pete, after years of playing football and a few ankle injuries, I'm prone to rolling my ankle during runs, which is common, especially on the trails, which again, uneven ground. What can I do to strengthen this and lower the chances of re-injury? Well, hopefully I've already answered some of those questions with the exercises I've demonstrated. So things where you're working on like the hopping strength, if you're doing that in a controlled environment where it's not off on uneven ground, you're working the strength to improve on that, and the lateral hop as well. So some of the exercises I've demonstrated, and the hill raises as well, good for ankle strength. So out of those 11 exercises, I think there's a few there. Don't rely on like ankle supports. Try and rely on your own muscles to strengthen yourself up. So ankle supports can limit range and be a bit bulky with running. So unless you absolutely need it, try and work on the muscles and the rehab of them. I suppose ankle supports can be a short-term measure. I've had a lot of like running, football injuries cause my weak ankles, and I still try. I'm not 100% on the trails, but I still go and, you know, I suppose with the strength and conditioning I do, I try and keep on top of it as best as possible. So yeah, there's plenty of exercise ideas from today. So I'm just going to just go back to, I'm going to open a presentation. And so I'm just going to pause on the exercises, sorry, on the questions, and go to some of the ideas that I just wanted to kind of run through about the exercises. So this slide is why do these exercises? I mean, it's all very well me telling you to do them, but why should you do them? So a bit like I mentioned earlier, there is evidence to say that strength work can improve performance. So you know, don't worry too much into that, but there is, you know, there's evidence out there which is saying they are good to do. Studies show it. See if my computer wants to let me move on. There we go. I think I just skipped a slide about injury prevention. So there's not as much evidence about injury prevention, but you know, in terms of rehab and things, then exercises are good to do for rehab and strengthening muscles and working on balance and flexibility. So but preventing injury, there's not as much evidence. Hopefully in the future we'll find a bit more. Also, like I mentioned at the start, why are we doing them? To improve form. So you can see like a familiar running form and a good running form, and looking at the difference you know, they pose. And if you're looking to try and be a bit quicker, you try and work into that forwards motion. If you go back to that first exercise I talked about, the running man, it's trying to kind of get you towards that pose in a way. Oh no, there's that slide. It was just swapped around a bit. So this is the one about injury prevention. So the main what are we taking from that? If you're a novice runner, consider talking to a professional about getting a good training plan in place. So if you're not sure about what to do, and you've got an idea of these exercises and you like to prevent injury, then speak to an expert. Hopefully you'll find some good advice from us at the White House. So I did also just do some slides for the exercises. I'm just going to skip through those because I wanted to make it a bit more that you could see me demonstrating them. But there are kind of descriptions and methods of these exercises and how you can make them slightly harder or vary them over time. So we might be able to get some of these slides over to you, but for each of the exercises, I've gone through the running man. This will just kind of clarify what I talked about earlier. So we went through the squat and the variations on that and why they're important as well. And then we had the single leg deadlift. I will just skip through these. The Soleus heel raise, the single leg bridge. So if you want any of these slides, do let me know and I'll be able to kind of sort out sending them over. Side plank hip abduction, that was the really tricky one. The wide lateral hop, which is really good for the dynamic balance and coordination, which is good to work on. Cross hopping rather than just hopping, which is good. And that single leg squat and going into the difficult pistol squat. And then the last two things were the pigeon stretch and the lumbar spine rotation with piriformis stretch. It's kind of adding a couple of things there. I don't need to go on the videos because I think we've seen them all. So I just wanted to kind of say, I touched on this earlier, what exercises maybe shouldn't we be doing? So a lot of them are like the quad stretches and the calf stretches that I talked about, and the hamstring stretches. I don't find them that beneficial. I don't stretch my hamstrings, but I do a lot of the arabesque, that the exercise I showed you earlier, and I find that is much more beneficial. So I suppose why should we not be doing those? It's maybe that they're not actually being as effective as you think they are. Things like the static plank as well. A lot of people will try and hold that position. I suppose why I've put that in there as a idea not to do it is because you can make it a bit more dynamic and a bit more interesting, a bit like the side plank one where you're moving and being more dynamic. And I like exercises where we're moving a bit more than just holding a posture. So if you're kind of thinking about just long plank holds, think about what you're trying to achieve with that. Okay, so just kind of throw it in as, you know, as a bit of an thought process. Should we be stretching the quads and the calves before we go running, or should we be maybe doing slightly more dynamic things there? Okay. Yeah, Jeanette's asking for a list of some exercises as memory prompt. I didn't expect you to kind of have them all written down and memorized now, don't worry. Going back to like more kind of, we talked about how many reps to do, but how often should you do these exercises? So there are studies saying that you should do them 3 to 4 times a week for 6 to 14 weeks, which is a lot really. But I suppose when you're trying to make progress and step forwards, then 3 times a week may be something that you can achieve. They're not going to take too long to get through some of them, but when you are at a decent level, once a week should be sufficient. And that's what I try and kind of cover with my exercise classes, doing them once a week. The other question is, how many reps should I do? So I've answered that. What if I'm injured? I say seek some advice and you know, professional advice on what to do and what exercises to avoid. What other exercises can you do? So when you're rolling that into kind of, right, I like these stretching elements and I want to do something different, then yoga and Pilates are great kind of really focused times to spend on the stretching and the movement control. And we've got some great tutors here who are doing it on Zoom at the minute. So we haven't got the studio open, but a lot of people are coming or attending on the Zoom, just like we're doing tonight's running seminar. And And I've deliberately not talked about kind of much with equipment, because then you can start all these exercises without having to buy anything too much. But good bits of equipment like these exercise bands, really good piece of equipment. You can pick these up for £2 or £3. Foam rollers, you know, another really good, you know, low cost piece of equipment to get in the house. Okay, so I'm just going on to the finals. The problem is, if you ask me to talk about running, I do talk a lot about running. I quite enjoy it. Let's see if we've just got something's being slow on my computer. Here we go. So just to kind of let you know, if you are keen and you want to try rolling these exercises out and doing them, but you maybe want a little bit of guidance or to do them in a class situation. So every Monday night at 7 p.m, and I've been doing this for years, I do a strength and conditioning class. It is currently on Zoom. The first session is free, so you can try it out. You can always email me and or contact the clinic, and we can get you a link and you can try it out. So it's a 45-minute session. It will involve like some of the warm-ups that we've done, and then some exercises like I've demonstrated tonight. But what I try and do is keep it varied. So we have regulars who come along, but it's not doing the same exercises all the time. It's varying it. There's loads of exercises out there. Sometimes you just need to kind of have someone and a time to do them. So that's, yeah, it's a really good idea to, if you're quite keen and this has given you that idea that you want to do a bit more, then consider doing that class, or speak to me if you want to. And at the minute as well, because it's on Zoom, I will be able to send out recordings if people can't make it at that time on a Monday. Okay, so I will, if you want to hang on a little bit more, I've got a few more questions from people. If you've got something to get off and do, I will say goodbye to you now. But I think I've still got some people in the room. So questions, I'll just close that. There are my contact details. If anyone wants to jot those down, I'll leave those open for a minute there. So what have we got here? A question from Darren. I always get pains in the hamstring when I increase the distance and pain in the left shin. Can these cause long-term damage, and what would help reduce these problems? I suppose if you don't address them, they can always be there and they can always lead to problems. So potentially making things a bit worse, but I always think things are, the body is adaptable, so you can change it. So if someone's had a chronic injury for a year or two, you can always look to make changes. It just sometimes takes a little bit longer to make those changes. I mean, hopefully everyone's got that there. I'm just going to bring myself back on screen. Message me if you need any of those contact details. So you don't have to have a problem that's always there. You know, people do have chronic problems, but we can address them. I suppose, how do you address them? Build the tolerance of the muscles gradually. Do the strength and conditioning exercises. I suppose for the hamstring, one of the good ideas is that arabesque, which works on the flexibility. You can start that steadily with a little bit of support and progress it on. Okay. Verity asked an exercise, what good exercises would you recommend for the Achilles? So hopefully I've answered some on that, because the soleus heel raise, which quite often you'll do heel raises, which are good for the Achilles, but you might not think about doing that soleus heel raise where the knee was bent. So that's a really good exercise. If you do those exercises on a step, it takes your muscles through a slightly larger range. So I wouldn't always prescribe stretching the Achilles. I don't think it needs that. And in fact, what you're doing is cutting off some of the blood supply. But going through a heel raise on a step, going through a nice range of motion is a really good exercise to do. It gets movement, gets blood flow, and it gives good benefit. And it works the muscle eccentrically, which is what we term like for controlling the muscle on its downward control, which is a good way of working muscles. Also consider like foam rollers for the calf, just to keep those flexible. Daniel's asked, what are the best exercises to keep the Achilles and the hamstring tendons pain-free? So I think the Achilles we just talked about there, and the hamstrings I have addressed, talking about the arabesque, but also maybe the bridge is a good exercise, that single leg bridge that I talked about, and it's like a Nordic curl, which is a slightly harder exercise, where I'll try and demonstrate this. One last demonstration. I don't know why I'm trying to demonstrate, because actually what someone would do is kind of put their body weight on your heels there, and you would lean forwards, and you'd be going quite far forwards to work the hamstring quite strongly from there, and they'd be keeping their body weight on you, so you'd need a partner to help with that. Okay, so it's another good exercise if you've got someone to help with that. Two more questions to answer, and then I think we'll wrap it up. So Rizni, hi there. How to avoid injuries? Yeah, and exercises for high hamstring tendinopathy. So similar to some of the previous ones. So we'll fly through that. Strength and conditioning is how to, what I think, a good way of avoiding injuries, and the high hamstring tendinopathy, like single leg bridging, Nordic curls, and things like that. So similar to the other one. And Sally's asked, what to do about painful knees? Is it a sign I should stop running? No, it shouldn't be. Obviously, get them checked out by a physio if you're not sure.
Oh, yeah. He's wrapping up.
But I don't think we should, with painful knees, actually running can be beneficial for you. So it should be that by doing the right exercises and running at the right levels, you can actually improve from that. So yes, a good question, but no, hopefully that's not going to stop you running from there. What else was there? I'm 60. I'm not sure who said this. I'm 65. Can I realistically hope to run any faster than I do now? Yes, definitely. Depending on how fast you are at the minute, you might be a 100-meter sprinter and flying. But yeah, there's always room for improvement if you do the right things and get the right training involved. And the best ways of increasing distance, so Emma says, best ways of increasing distance safely without getting injuries. So I often recommend, when you're coming back from injury or when you're new to running, interval training is really good. If you're new to running, you might try the Couch to 5K, which is a form of interval training where you walk a bit, you run a bit, and you gradually progress that over time. So you gradually adapt to running a bit more. And a lot of the time I will prescribe exercises or interval training for that. And the 10% rule as well. So never do too much more than you've done in the previous week. So if you ran 5 miles the previous week, in theory, if you run 5.5 miles, that's 10% more. So it's quite a slow process, but it just kind of helps you think about reining it in. If you have that mindset of maybe the 10% rule, you shouldn't be upping your distance too quickly, and you need to allow your body to adapt to running. Most bodies should be able to run. A lot of people, when you put your mind to it, can start out and eventually end up doing a 5K. People will carry on, up to marathon distance. And a lot of that is just gradual progress over time, allowing your body to adapt, looking after your body. And that is largely, I would recommend doing these exercises, working, like sorting out any injuries and getting them addressed, seeing a physiotherapist, getting massage, doing yoga and doing Pilates, which you find beneficial. So there's lots of ideas and lots here at the clinic that we can do. And if anyone's got any running niggles and you're not sure, always happy to see a runner in the clinic and get an appointment. And we are doing clinic appointments, telephone appointments, Zoom appointments. We've had to adapt this year, so we've got lots of variety for you. Okay, I think that is everything. I have talked a lot about running there, so I will sign out and say goodbye as I'm approaching the hour mark. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I hope you found that interesting, useful, and we'll be in touch with further information. Look after yourselves, especially on the icy ground, and take care. Goodbye.